Hey, okay, stories. Stories in the sense of how story shapes our life. So how does story shape our life? And how we can use this for the benefit? Well, story shapes our life because we are built upon stories. Our whole identity is built around stories. It's like we somewhere in time when we were a little kid, we took something from our parents. There was a story that we like gaming or that we are not loved, or and then along the way we took a story from the first breakup. Oh, we are not good enough, or oh, it was amazing that I had this first experience of love. Those are our stories, right? There's a whole narrative and whole character and whatever. You can go into that. That is a whole part of the story. And then along the times come when we are the first soccer game and we win the game. We're like, oh yeah, we were winners. We win. And at the same time, while we're winning in the game, we didn't have the best communication with the team, so it was a lot of fighting within our team. So that was also there's some disharmony around this. Okay, our team is not really fluently with each other. All stories based pam pam pam. They're all convictions. And at the same time, that's where the story is the beautiful thing we can do about healing. Even yeah, that's why stories is a beautiful thing to use for healing. To use for to use for our own benefit. Because many people don't really realize this, but it ends always at the bad part when people tell stories. It's like people always want to unconsciously or consciously be stuck in the same position or don't want to give them why they experience this story. Like, it's fascinating to me. Like, why do you experience this story? Think about it, right? It don't need to be something like, oh, they hurt me. No. Or they did this. Or, oh, because life is like this. Or, no, there's something else. There's a lesson in there. There's something that's giving to you. It's like every negative has a positive. Every positive has a negative. And the why is the gateway to that. If you discover the why you're living, why you're having this story, then you can discover what's the positive about it. It's interesting. It's a very interesting thing. Because, for instance, my story about I was a drug addict. I've smoked weed and hash for 5 years in my room, in this room actually, with a PlayStation and gaming every night from 2 p.m. to every day from 2 p.m. to midnight. Gaming, smoking a couple joints per day, spending 20 euros less or around that average per day. It's quite a lot. And that was my story. At the same time, it wasn't all of my story. Because what this story made me believe and made me see how much I value my health and how much I'm taking care of my health. I'm eating vegan right now. I'm vegetarian right now. I don't smoke. I don't smoke weed or cigarettes, which I did. I don't drink alcohol anymore. I go exercising. I'm actively seeking out community and people where I can surround myself with and connect with. Well, the Paris was completely different and totally opposite. So the story is not ended. It's like, the hero's journey story. The beginning may be hurt, maybe trauma. The end doesn't need to be the trauma. And this is the funny thing. You can go about it unconsciously or consciously. It doesn't really matter. Well, if you do it unconsciously, it will be a little more uncomfortable. But if you go unconsciously, you probably have been learning it in a way that's very natural to you and you meant your own way. Really, we can debate on this. And at the same time, so it's in our language, right? The language we use to explain our story and to give our story an ending or an arc that goes like a hero journey goes through something, he experienced something bad, and then everybody is gonna see how it's like this, and then all attention came, and he experienced something bad, and he drops down, and there's sort of a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of worries of how is this gonna end up, and then the story goes further, and you see him growing into a different person because of that challenge, and he had to learn those challenges. He had to go to those challenges to be in a position up on a mountain where he could be ready for the climax of the movie, and then in the end, he went to the massive experience and massive transformation, and then he was the person he always dreamed of being, or he was the best basketball player, or he overcame whatever. You know the thing. We can give that to ourselves, basically. Just be aware that our mind is working like that. Once we identify the once we identify the story, or we identify the lesson, or we are clear of the lesson we had to learn, or we identify the value that sort of we have driven out of the experience we went through. Like for instance, for me, I value connection a lot, man. I value that. I value being connected to myself. I value having pleasure in what I do. I value that I value pleasure in what I do. But not only pleasure, I also value that I can hold space for all the negative emotions, or negative I won't even say, but hold space for my shadow, for my fear, for my jealousy, for my anger, for my judgment, for my nervousness, for my insecurities, all in my body. And it doesn't mean that should necessarily have to be like I have to really let go of smoking weed or smoking cigarettes or gaming. I could do that if I want to. That's because it's not about that. It's more about what was my values. What were my values of why I felt so miserable, why I felt like I was not connected with myself. And that's the point, that's where we go. And to use and describe the values in the story, in the end point, you automatically use your story for your own benefit. You got it? Got it.